Hello friends, welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to talk about the signal transduction by GPCR receptors. So in the first part of the video, we were talking about the different classes of receptors and the general concept about what is a ligand, what is a receptor, where are they present, what are the types, and it's some of the functions we have studied. So if you have missed that video, I'll give the link of that video in the description. Please go to watch that video, then you can watch this video. It becomes more, the concepts become more easy, and it is also becomes easy for your understanding. So moving on to this, it is called as GPCR. We all studied, it is known as G protein coupled receptor. So there are different classes of receptor. One class of receptor that is present on the cell membrane, transmembrane receptor. So one of the example is called as GPCR, G protein coupled receptor, or this is also called as 7-pass receptor. It is also called as 7-pass receptor because it has 7 chain or 7 loops that passes through the transmembrane. That is called as a transmembrane chain. It is called as, or it is also called as serpentine receptors. It is also called as serpentine receptor because it resembles like a snake. How the snake moves in a crawling or it creeps and goes, it resembles in such a way. Hence, it is also called as 7-pass receptor or serpentine receptors. So let us see what is the function of this GPCR receptor and how is the signaling is getting activated or transducted. So this GPCR receptor activates, it is present in both plant system as well as animal system, and there are so many functions. One of the main function in which it is involved is in the cell division and the cell growth. It is involved in the growth. So when you see the structure of this GPCR, we will have a membrane, a cell membrane or the plasma membrane. I will draw it. So this is the plasma membrane and it has a long polypeptide chain, and this polypeptide chain, it passes through the membrane 7 times. It passes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It passes through the 7 times. It passes through the membrane, and this portion of the peptide, it's a protein structure. So this peptide is called as transmembrane peptide, and this is the N terminal and the C terminal. So as we all know, if you take a protein structure or a peptide structure, one end of a peptide, so if this is a peptide, one end the amino acid group will be there, and the other end the carboxylic acid group will be there. So this end is called as N terminal and the other end is called as C terminal. The N terminal will be towards the cell wall. It will be facing the outside towards the cell wall, and this is also called as the ligand binding domain. So it is at this region where the ligand molecules will come and bind. So all these things are discussed in that video. What is ligand, what is ligand binding domain. So please go to watch if you haven't watched that video. So it is a ligand binding domain, and in the C terminal region we will be having a very important protein that is associated, and that protein is called as G protein. So that protein that is associated is called as the G protein that is associated. So this is the structure of your G protein coupled receptor. In the downstream, that means in the near that region, you will be having an effector molecule. So what is this effector molecule? We will study in this video. So we will be having an effector that gets activated by the addition when by the binding of the ligand. When ligand molecule comes and binds, all these things gets activated. We will come into it in the later part of this video. So we will quickly revise this. G protein, it has N terminal towards the cell wall and C terminal towards the cytoplasm, and with this C terminal there is one protein attached that is called as the G protein. And then you have 7 transmembrane domain that passes 7 transmembrane loops that passes through the cell membrane, through the plasma membrane. And if you see the arrangement of it, it has a alpha helix loop helix arrangement. So if you see this, it will be in the form of helix, and a loop will be formed and another helix. Similarly, loop will be formed and another helix. So this repeats 7 times like this. So this transmembrane will be in the form of alpha helix loop helix arrangement. So this is called as alpha helix loop helix arrangement will be there. So this is about some of the structural details of GPCR. I mean the GPCR, G protein coupled receptors. Now moving on to the G protein. So as I said, G protein is a Heterotrimer. Hetero means different. Tri means three. Mer means unit. So it has three different units. So hence it is called as heterotrimer. So if you see this G protein, it is a heterotrimer. It is made up of three subunits called as alpha, gamma, and beta subunit. Alpha, beta, gamma. Three subunits will be there. Out of which the alpha subunit is very big in molecular size. It is the large molecular size, large molecular weight it has. Beta is intermediate and gamma is having the least molecular weight. So alpha having the large molecular weight, beta is in intermediate, and gamma is having the least molecular weight. And how are they attached? If you see, the alpha subunit and the gamma subunit has a fatty acid chain. This is called as the fatty acid chain. Fatty acid chain it has, and this is the alpha subunit and this is the gamma subunit. The beta subunit is in between. The beta subunit is in between, and a GTP or a GDP will be attached. That is why this protein is called as G protein. So a GTP molecule or a GTP, guanosine triphosphate, or GDP, guanosine diphosphate, any one will be attached with this alpha subunit. This will be attached only with the alpha subunit. Very important. This is attached with only the alpha subunit. So this is the arrangement or the structure of our G protein. So it has three subunits: alpha, beta, gamma. Alpha and gamma is attached by a fatty acid chain. So this fatty acid chain gets attached to our this C domain. It gets attached, and our GTP or GDP gets attached with the alpha subunit. And one more thing to remember: if GTP is attached, then it is in activated form. If GTP is attached, it is in activated form, or it is activated. If GDP is present, then this protein is in inactive form. So this we have to remember. If GDP is there, this protein is in inactive form. It has not yet been activated. If GDP is there, it is in the activated form. Now, what happens? So with this, we will move to the signaling, actual signaling we will move. So first thing is, whenever a ligand comes and binds, what is this ligand? This ligand can be any protein substances or any hormones or any factors. Since I said this is involved in the growth, cell division, I will give example as growth factor or growth hormone. So let me give an example as growth factor or growth hormone. For example, a growth factor or a growth hormone comes and binds in the ligand binding domain. Then this GPCR receptor gets activated by the binding of this ligand. Now what happens? It goes and activates another enzyme called as GTPases. It goes and activates. So this is the first reaction that happens. It goes and activates an enzyme called as GTPases. So the function of the GTPases is to convert GDP into GTP. What happens? GDP, guanosine diphosphate. Di means two. Only two phosphates are there. This GDP, it goes and binds an inorganic phosphate. And another inorganic phosphate goes and binds with GDP, and this forms guanosine triphosphate. So GTPases are activated by the binding of this ligand, and GTPases goes and converts the GDP and it combines with inorganic phosphate to form GDP. Now this GDP is formed over this alpha subunit. So our GDP is not present. GTP is present, and this is an activated. Now the protein has been activated. So GTP is present. GTP is present and it has been activated. Now since it is activated, it cannot sit in its own place. This alpha subunit, as soon as GTP is formed, it separates. It separates from this trimer and it comes off out. As long as it is in relationship with GDP, they will be stable. There won't be any conformational changes. Once the GTP has formed, it triggers or it activates, and there is a conformational changes, and it separates. It's like a new family, something new family comes and a divorce happens between them, and this separates. Now how does it separate? It separates into alpha GTP unit, alpha subunit along with GTP. That is unit 1, alpha GTP unit becomes 1, and beta gamma becomes separate. beta gamma becomes separate. This is a dimer. So it forms two units, alpha subunit along with GTP that acts as a one unit, and this beta gamma it separates and it forms a dimer. So this is the second step that happens. Conformational change of G protein. I will call this as conformational change. Conformational change of G protein. So all these things leads to the conformational change. So once the GDP becomes GTP from the influence of GTPases, then this alpha subunit along with GTP will run away and it will separate. Beta gamma separates and becomes a dimer. This is the second step that happens. Now this alpha subunit along with this GTP subunit, it is a very naughty subunit. It will not stay in its own place. It goes and continues the reaction. It is a very naughty subunit. It goes and it activates another enzyme called as adenylyl cyclases. So this alpha and GTP subunit, it is a very naughty subunit. It goes and activates another subunit that is called, it goes and activates another enzyme called as adenylyl cyclases. Adenylyl cyclases. So I was drawing some structure, the green structure over here, and I said that as effector molecule. This is that effector molecule. It goes and activates this effector. It has its effect on this molecule. So only this is called as effector molecule. So this naughty alpha GTP subunit, it comes and activates this adenylyl cyclases. This adenylyl cyclases is an enzyme that converts the normal ATP into cyclic AMP. It converts normal adenosine triphosphate into cyclic adenosine monophosphate. C is small letter, AMP is capital letter. We can call it as CAMP. So it converts ATP into cyclic form, cyclic adenosine monophosphate. So now what happens? I will quickly revise from here. After the conformational changes occurred, the alpha subunit along with GTP comes and it activates this effector called as adenylyl cyclases. This adenylyl cyclases function is to convert the ATP molecules into cyclic AMP molecule. So this cyclic AMP is our second signal. First signal was the ligand, the growth hormone or the growth factor that attached, that is called as the first messenger or the primary messenger. This is called as the secondary messenger. This is called as the secondary messenger or second messenger it is called as. It is called as the secondary messenger. So when the ligand binds, when the growth hormone or the growth factor binds, more CAMP is formed, more CAMP is produced. Now this CAMP goes and binds to our protein kinase A. So this is the third one. CAMP is produced. More quantity of CAMP is produced. That is the third step. This CAMP goes and binds to a protein kinase A. pKa it is called as protein kinase A. It is an enzyme. Protein kinase A. pKa is an enzyme. This pKa has 4 subunits. It has 2 out of which 2 are identical. That means it has 4 subunits, 2 are identical. This is one subunit. I will call this subunit as R subunit, and you have another subunit. I will call this subunit as C subunit. So you have 4 subunits. This is the structure of protein kinase A. It's an enzyme, protein kinase A. It has 4 subunits. 2 subunits are identical, out of each 2 subunits are identical. This CAMP goes and binds to R subunit. It goes and binds to R subunit. This is the CAMP. It goes and binds to CAMP. Once the CAMP goes and binds to R subunit, it cleaves off the C subunit or it activates the C subunit. So until then the C will be joined with R subunit and it is in the inactive form. Once the CAMP comes and binds to the R subunit, what happens? It separates from the R subunit and it gets cleaved. It gets cleaved and C subunit comes off separately. And now this protein, this is the fourth step. protein kinase A. It acts on the protein kinase A. Now, this protein kinase A, the enzyme itself says kinase. What do you mean by kinase? In the enzyme you would have studied that enzyme which is named kinase that will have phosphorylation activity. Phosphorylation means it just simply adds phosphate groups. So phosphate will be lying in the cytoplasm. For example, in this process ATP has converted to AMP. Adenosine triphosphate has combined to adenosine monophosphate. There are two phosphate groups. Like this, so many reactions, as a product of so many reactions, there are phosphate groups that are lying in the cytoplasm, and all this happens in the cytoplasm. So we have to take a note on it. All these things happens in the cytoplasm. And this protein kinase A, it phosphorylates another protein. That protein is called as CREB. That protein is called as CREB. CREB stands for camp response element binding protein. It is called as camp response element binding protein. So it goes and binds to another pKa. After it gets activated by this method, it goes and phosphorylates the CREB. Phosphorylates means it goes and adds phosphate group. So it goes and it adds the phosphate group to this protein called as camp response element binding protein. And this protein is there in the cytoplasm. Once it gets phosphorylated, it is activated. That means it is activated. Now, what does this activated CREB do? This activated CREB, it enters into the nucleus through the nuclear pore. So this CREB is a protein that is present in the cytoplasm. It is usually present in the inactive form. Once this CAMP goes and binds to the R subunit, the protein kinase gets activated, the C unit comes off, and it goes and it phosphorylates the CREB. So it goes and adds the phosphate group. Now this CREB that is present in the cytoplasm gets activated, and if you see the nucleus, inside the nucleus you have DNA, and there are small openings in the nucleus. That is called as the nuclear pore. That is present in the nuclear membrane. So now this CREB enters through the nuclear pore and it goes and binds to the promoter region of the genes that are involved in cell cycle. So now the CREB that was there in the cytoplasm, without phosphorylation, it cannot enter into the nucleus. Phosphorylation is like an identity card. It's like an ID card for this. Only if it shows this phosphorylation, the nuclear pore will allow it inside. Without the phosphorylation, without the phosphate group, it will not allow inside. It cannot go inside. So this acts like an ID card. So after it gets phosphorylated, it will show its ID card and it will enter into the nucleus through the nuclear pore, through the nuclear membrane. It enters into the DNA. Now, if I take a DNA, this is double stranded form of DNA. There are certain genes that are involved in the cell cycle. This gene, every gene has a promoter region. This CREB, it goes to the promoter region of the gene and it activates the gene for transcription process. So now if this is the gene, it comes and binds in the promoter region. CREB along with phosphate. This is the promoter region and this is the actual gene region. So it comes and binds to the promoter region. One such gene is called as CRE gene, cyclic response element gene. CRE gene. One such example is CRE gene, cyclic response, CAMP response element gene. It comes and binds to this promoter region of this gene and it gets activated and the gene now undergoes transcription, translation, and the proteins are formed for your growth cycle, for the cell cycle to occur. So now it undergoes transcription, then transcription is followed by translation. At the end of the translation, the necessary proteins for, let it be for meiosis or mitosis or meiosis, or for the S phase of cycle or G cycle or M cycle, there are many phases, stages of cell cycle. For all those stages, you require certain proteins. So that proteins are formed by this method. So after this, in the fifth method, after protein kinase A happens, it goes and phosphorylates the CREB. It goes and phosphorylates the CREB. Then this goes and binds to the promoter region and it gets activated. For example, one of the promoter region is CAMP response element gene. It goes and binds. So this is how the entire cycle or signal transduction occurs in the GPCR receptor. In the GPCR mediated signal transduction, it is called as. So very quickly I will recapitulate the entire concept whatever we studied in this video session. So I will just say that again. So GTPases or the GPCR coupled receptors, these are the transmembrane receptors that are present on the plasma membrane. And this membrane, this receptor has three regions: the N-terminal region, the C-terminal region, and the loop region, the transmembrane region. And this transmembrane region has alpha helix loop helix arrangement, and it passes through the cell membrane 7 times. Hence, it is also called as 7-pass receptor, or it is also called as serpentine receptors. And now this GPCR is always attached with a protein called as G protein. Hence, this receptor name is G protein coupled receptors or GPCR. Now, N-terminal is towards the cell wall, the C-terminal is towards the cytoplasm, and this G protein is always attached in the C-terminal. This G protein has 3 subunits: alpha, beta, gamma. And with this GTP or GDP always attaches with the alpha subunit. After that, now it has a ligand binding domain. After the ligand is bound to that ligand bound domain, this entire receptor or the protein gets activated. So the first step is the GTPases are produced, and this GTPases are involved in the conversion of GDP to inorganic phosphate combines, and it forms GTP, guanosine triphosphate. Now this GTP is an activated form. It goes and it breaks the family. So in so far the G protein was in the form of a family. Once this GTP is formed, it goes and breaks the family into alpha GTP as one unit and beta gamma dimer as another unit. This alpha GTP subunit is a naughty subunit. It goes on continuing the process. It goes and induces the conformational changes. This induces the conformational changes, and then what happens, that goes and activates the effector molecule called as adenylyl cyclases. That adenylyl cyclases, it converts the ATP molecule into CAMP. That is the next step. Now the CAMP increases in its concentration, and now the CAMP comes and binds to another protein called as protein kinase A. Protein kinase A has 4 subunits, 2 identical subunits, RR and CC. This CAMP comes and binds to the R subunit. It comes and binds to the R subunit, and this R subunit activates the C subunit. It activates the C subunit. So you can remember that C and C you can remember. It activates the C subunit. This is a kinase enzyme. It goes and phosphorylates another protein in the cytoplasm called as CREB protein. CAMP response element binding protein. CAMP response element binding protein. It goes and phosphorylates that protein and it gives that permission to enter into nucleus. Now with that permission or with that identity card, so this acts as the ID card. With that phosphorylation, after phosphorylation, the CREB protein gets activated, and through the nuclear pore and nuclear membrane, it enters into the gene. There are so many genes. It enters into a specific gene like CRE, cyclic response binding gene, and it goes and binds to the promoter region, and it activates the gene for transcription, translation, and the necessary proteins are produced for the cell cycle to go peacefully. So there are so many proteins that are involved in cells division, cell wall formation, for the spindle fibers to form, and for mitosis, meiosis, different phases of cell divisions for the so many proteins are required. So this goes and activates those genes, and those proteins are formed, those proteins are synthesized. So this is the entire mechanism of GPCR1. Just simple example I have given. So I hope this video was very easy, and it made the concepts very clear for you. If you felt this video was very easy, do share with your friends and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.